Hey guys, welcome back to another Train Like a King podcast episode. I have thrown away the mics because I just can't seem to get the mics going, especially now that I've changed laptops. I've got a new laptop, so I don't even have a USB um, insert, so I can't hook up the really good mic. So I've been using other mics and it just, nothing compares. I just can't seem to get it going, but we'll get there. So I'm just using the basic audio of the laptop. I hope that's pretty good. There's a bit of echo cancellation and background noise removal activated at the moment. So I hope you guys, hope it's not like the episode 2, a couple of episodes ago, where it was just this constant ringing in the background. Really hope that's not what you're hearing now. But welcome back. You're still here, still listening. So on this podcast episode, I want to talk about the reason why I took up surfski paddling, and kayaking at the same time. K1 paddling, just kayaking in general, something different to my main sport, outrigger canoe, wakaama. Now, little bit of context. About 4 years ago, I want to say, during the pandemic, I was kind of left with a little bit more time on my hands to, we didn't have international races and we barely had local races. There wasn't a lot going on. So during that period, I kind of, took it upon myself to, give myself the opportunity to give kayaking a good go for once. So a paddling friend, Tim Eves, he's both outrigger and surfski background. While I was up in Whangarei, he said, look, you should really give surfski paddling a good nudge. And he lent me his Epic V10, so like quite a balanced, ski for first time paddlers, and lent me that. And I picked it up in Whangarei, and I remember paddling on it for the first time up in Lake Manawa, up in the Bay of Islands. So, man, I still remember taking it out on a flat lake, and it just being very difficult, even on a balanced ski. Really tippy. I was falling in and was just like generally uncomfortable, just not used to sitting so low in the canoe and in your feet being so high relative to your seat. I felt like there was a lot of core strength and a lot of kind of back strength that I didn't have yet for the ski in order to hold myself up in more of an upright position. I tend, like, the first things that were getting sore was just my back, really, and I felt like my core was more activated because I had you're sitting low and you had to keep yourself upright. Now, so the first race I believe I did was in the Epic V10, so a fairly balanced ski, and I did the King and Queen of the Harbour. Now, I believe I remember it being a pretty difficult race, but I quickly learned that my balance was terrible in the flat. Probably because of my stroke, I wasn't used to the angle of the blade, the entry, the exit, the rotation. I just wasn't used to not having armor. However, as soon as I got into some surf or some bump, I was good because it reminded me of being in a waka. Once I had momentum on the wave, part of it was probably that I could actually sit up or even lean back, and that improved my stability. But as soon as I was on a wave, I felt like I was back in the waka. My stability was there, and what I also learned is just how easy it was to not only catch a wave, but to jump waves, get onto the next one. However, that didn't come easily straight away. Like, first I was just trying to learn how to surf like I would surf an OC1. So I wasn't necessarily jumping waves per se. I was just doing my best to um, to 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 surf as fast as I normally would in the OC1, which is quite funny because part of the reason why I did the switch was because in the Poor Knights crossing, this is why I picked up the ski, is because in the Poor Knights crossing up in Whangarei, it was a really good downwinder that year for the Poor Knights, and I think I ended up being 1 minute or so off the first Surfski, 1 or 2 minutes off the first Surfski paddler in the downwind. So in my mind, I'm like, wow, if I'm half the stroke rate, because Surfski has, or kayak paddle has 2 blades, basically almost twice the stroke rate, really. If I've got half the stroke rate, yet I'm only 1 minute to 2 minutes off some of these guys, then, what's it going to take to make the switch and then get, obviously try and get to the top of the top level in New Zealand. I said it can't be that bad. Everyone knows that the ski is faster than a outrigger, especially in flat water. It's just physics. However, reduced drag, no armor, 2 blades, double the stroke rate, good use of rotation. You've got a rudder. These things kind of add up. So, yeah, that's pretty much why I went to Tim Eves and picked up that ski on the way home, I think. I was like, I'll give it a go. I got time. And yeah, so the first race I did was the King and Queen, and I believe it was a struggle. I was just like, I was working harder than I needed to because I just lacked balance. Any stroke that I took was just on the verge of tipping. I was trying to catch, I was trying to stay up with the top, the fastest woman at the start, Rachel. I think I pulled away in the end, but just using just basic muscle and outrigger strokes. I remember being pretty sore at the end of that one, even though it wasn't that long. But I think I finished up 6th. Sorry, coffee break. I think I finished 6th place. Now, I can't exactly remember every race, but I know within 3 or 4 races, I did my very first national championships. And that was, I can't remember if it was the Butties or the Whakatane race. It was one of the two. I thought it was the Whakatane race was the national, sorry, but the Butty Memorial race was my first win on the Surfski. Now, it's funny because the morning of the Butty Memorial race, I decided I had been given a Vega Surfski from Kaiwata Canoes, who had already been my sponsor for years through Outrigger for the, on the Ares OC1 and the Draco, and loved it. But it was pretty awesome that Kai Bartlett decided to make a ski as well, and it was perfect timing because, it was already out for a year or 2 or more before I hopped on it. But I hopped on the Vega ski the morning of the race. So I'm taking a step up from a Vega V10, which I already thought was unbalanced, to a Vega Pro Elite ski. And an Elite ski is a lot more tippy, because it's a lot more narrow. It's a lot lighter. So it was a little bit of a scary thought, knowing that it was my first time. I Paul Wilford brought it down to the race start, and he removed the plastic from it. It was brand new, removed the plastic from the Vega, and I hopped on it, did a karakia, and it's quite funny because at the time Ben Keys, was I think the current New Zealand champ, and he's been dominating in New Zealand a lot. And so I didn't really have a game plan for this race, but I just took what I knew from outrigger canoe racing. So in outrigger canoe, there's basically two race strategies you can do. Not two, but these are the kind of the predominant race strategies you can do. Either you can just go hard, all out, maximal, and just try and finish the race in as quick as as little time as possible, fastest, just focus on you, tunnel vision, go. And with that thinking in mind, I used to think like this too. I used to think like, if you do that, then you're only ever gonna finish as fast as you could possibly finish. You know, that's the idea. Is that like if you only focus on you, your canoe speed, you're just getting the maximum speed out of you. Fine, you can do that. Or you can be tactical and watch what everyone else does. Watch them, follow them, draft them, you know, use every little bit of everything you can, because here's the benefits. There's benefits to both. You know, if you're fit enough, you can just go and then you can just keep on going and walk away from the competition. However, if you're the other person, you go for race strategy number 2, where you're a little bit more reserved, or I wouldn't say I was reserved. I was still pushing as hard as I could, but I needed something else. So what I chose to do, or what I needed to do in order to stay in contention, was basically follow Ben for the entire race. And part of that was because the race was kind of flat, and in the flat I don't have a lot of balance. So basically when I had the opportunity, I basically did the peloton, got to Ben, and when it wasn't easy to stay there because he's fast, but it did give me a sense of direction and a sense of balance. I found that anytime that I tried to take the lead, I would just lose my balance and I'd be frantic, and so at least if I was trailing him, I was calm, balanced, collected. I was able to. This was a 30K race, so I was able to just control myself a bit more. Now, every now and then, Ben would go to break the gap, boom, and he'd 2-3 canoes, he'd be out in front, and I just wouldn't panic. I would just breathe, try and catch a few waves and come back and get back to him. He'd break again, lead, I'd come back, so that was my whole strategy for basically the race. Being a newbie, being on a new ski, I wasn't balanced. My stroke was terrible. It was the longest race that I've done on the ski. And so I did that, I want to say, for about 25 kilometers. That was just my goal. Just stick with him, stay with him. Now, we had another ski that was on his own, out far on his own line. But I think our line was a lot better. That was, I believe, Toby was out there from the South Island, was out there. And then it wasn't until I got to the Rabbit Island where I could feel that Ben was probably maybe slowing down a little bit, or starting to lose a little bit of energy, because I started to get the opportunities to take the lead. Now, this is the downfall of strategy number 1, is that if you go all out and try and make the gap, there's the possibility that you actually overwork to the point that towards the end of the race, you actually start to drop down. Whereas the person who maybe operated somewhere in the middle for as long as they can, still, peaking, but reserving a little bit of energy, when they see that it's time to attack, or they see that the opposition is starting to tire, then they can make the break. So I did this with about five kilometers to go. But what I also did is, because at this point we were neck to neck, and we kind of had the opportunity, we were coming up to Rabbit Island, to either go right of Rabbit Island or left. Now, I spotted that I could actually see the point, the edge of the mount. I could see that to the left of rabbit. So I'm like, this is the shortest route. I'm going to go that. Whereas I think on the right-hand side, you may have got the current, but longer distance. And so Ben went right, I went left of rabbit. And when we recollected on the other side, I think I had about 40 or 50 meter lead. Wasn't sure I was going to hold him off, especially in the flat water, but as I look back on my technique, I was just still, again, muscling it, paddling it like an OC1, and managed to win my first Buti Memorial on Surfski. And then not long later, I think, was the national championships. So the Heads to Harbour in Whakatane, which we just did last weekend, actually. And I did a very similar thing. Like I said, I couldn't take the lead a lot because, especially in the headwind, because I just lose my balance. So heading up to the turning, because we had to go up into it, turn, and then surf. Going up, I had to stay close to Ben because every now and then when I try to take the lead, I just lose my balance. So I'd have to come back. But as soon as we turned the top buoy and it was surf, I just felt like I was at home. I was back on my OC1, back on my waka, surfing. And I was just, it was so easy. Managed to get my first national title, I think. And so it took me, I can't remember if it was a couple of years in total or less than 2 years, maybe on a year on the ski before I got my first national title. Currently the national champion. A little bit disappointed that I haven't seen that there's a New Zealand national champs for this year. Canoe racing New Zealand. I don't know why you wouldn't want to have a national championship for ski. I know that Canoe Racing New Zealand usually select a particular race, whether it's the Butis, Whakatane, King and Queen, King of the Harbour, for the nationals. Why not just create your own nationals? Just this is nationals. Takapuna, wherever, Auckland based. I don't mind if it's in Auckland. Everyone come together and they know it's the national championships. Keep building. Just a suggestion. Anyway, getting back to the reasons why. So I was always curious about kayaking, surfski paddling, because I've seen a lot of other, top paddlers cross train, cross codes, the likes of is it Marty McDowell, Maui Kelston, Lewis Loughlin, Hidomana Flores, who else is, Rudolph Williams, a lot of these guys who have, cross code. I know even Danny Ching came from a K1 background. Ash Roosendahl, he did K1 when he was younger. I always grew up racing around surfski paddlers, so I got to know a lot of the surfski community, and it's quite funny to look back now and think that, I'm actually racing these guys now. But I was always curious. When I was about 19 or 20, and I was at university and I was doing really well with the outrigger stuff in Tahiti and that, I was approached by a talent conversion manager, something code switcher, who wanted to get me into the kayak scene, the K1 stuff in Hamilton, connect me with the club and stuff like that. And, with the potential idea of growing and eventually maybe going to the Olympics. But I just had too much of a good thing going in the outrigger world with Wakaama, with all of my opportunities traveling to Tahiti. I had an ambassadorship with Air Tahiti Nui. So I was getting free return flights to Tahiti, up to 6 a year. Hence I was traveling a lot. And so I just wasn't ready for that. And I was also studying, doing my bachelor's and master's degree at Waikato University. So I kind of had all my time filled, and I didn't really have time to take up the K1. But I kind of I did. Like, so if you're a young outrigger paddler listening to this, then, do both. Do both. Take the opportunities to go overseas and race outrigger. But if you have the time to put the work in for kayak, then do it too. Like, the likes of Casey Ngataki, Jules was in there for a while going hard. I know Manite's taken up the K1 and a few others. It's good. It's only gonna give you more opportunities, more races, and it's gonna make you an all around better paddler too, because you understand. You just understand more. Another part of it was just the challenge. The challenge was cool because it was really good to be the learner again. Be the learner, and here's what I will say. Like, even with outrigger Wakaama, it wasn't necessarily becoming the champion that was the best part. It was like winning those small wins along the way to get there. So like winning my first little local regatta, or maybe it wasn't even winning. I think I was like slowly beating guys that I looked up to for a long time. Like, oh yeah, I'm fifth at the ITOR now, New Zealand ITOR, or managed to get this guy here. And then, it's just a constant, like, those little wins. It's not necessarily the top, because the only thing about being at the top is that there's only one way to go. But in saying that, like, even if you do get to the top, it's not even about that, like, one-off thing. Like, there's no doubt that you will, even if you get to the top, there's no doubt that you will fall. But the thing is that the key here is to keep going. And that basically goes with anything in life. Like, there's always going to be losses. There's going to be wins. There's going to be losses. But, it's all about the journey, and it's about the average over time. So you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows, you're going to have, in between. But as long as you keep going, you're going to have a good average. It's a bit like investing in stocks or whatever, and you're putting in a set amount each week, when the price is high, when the price is low. Over time, it averages out. That's the same thing with your performance. And, keep going, just enjoy the little wins along the way. Enjoy the little wins, and let the losses fuel your motivation and energy to train for the next one and come back and do better. Because that's what it's all about. It's everyone's putting their cards. Everyone's basically playing a game of poker. I don't know why I'm comparing it to gambling and investing and all that. But anyway, the other reason is just variety. Like, so learning the surfski or the kayak is like learning a new speed, a new level of speed, a new possibility of speed, especially when it comes to surfing, because surfing is so much more effortless. You can travel left, right with no restrictions of the armor. You can jump waves. You can take half the effort to stay in a wave, half the effort to jump and get into a new wave. You just travel so much faster. Like, you can cover so much distance. You can cover a 32-kilometer race in 2 hours, 15 minutes in the flat. Whereas that's like the record in Big Surf. I think I still have the record at the Butties in Big Surf. But and yeah, the other thing is that the skill transfer. So skills definitely do transfer. Like, if you're already an ocean paddler, then and surfer, then that makes it easier for you to understand Surfski. Like I said, when I'm in a wave, it's just it's effortless, and And yeah, I mean, right now, this first half of the year, I haven't been doing a lot of Surfski paddling since the doctor in December. But that's all right. Well, in the world champs, top 20 in the world. And that was pretty special. That's to me, it's funny because like the TI Tour is kind of the biggest race in the world for Va'a, and very hard to crack the top 20. I think I was 21st last year, whereas in the ski world champs, I was 19th or something. 18th. I can't even remember now. I've got a bad memory, but to put it in perspective, it's quite funny to, it's goes to show that it's possible to be just as successful in both. I do understand, however, though, if you want to break that top 10, top 5, then you do need some focus. You need 6 months of, up to 6 months of being in that particular craft, training for that specific event, because I know that these guys are doing that. The problem I face being a cross-coder like this is that, I'm not solely on one craft, whereas the Corey Hills, the Hank McGregors, or the Kevin Siron Jerusalemis or Steve Tehutatas, they're on one craft pretty much all year round. And so they're really focusing on, it's easier for them to peak for their big events. Whereas I'm focusing on Waka now because we've got the lead up to the World Champs in August, Hilo. But after Hilo, I think I'll look to train for some other Surfski races. I'll probably still do some Surfski races here in New Zealand just to stay on top of it. Got to test out this new paddle here from Race 1. You can see in the background. You see our Thai paddle, the OG Thai and TK collab here. Going to do another episode on paddles and the new Thai and Train Like a King collaboration. Just waiting until I have all of the designs with me. I've only got the one green Pounamu Ariki design. But that's for a future episode. So to sum it up, the reason I started Surfski was to try something new. I wanted to learn. A new craft, get a new understanding for the water. It was learning how to go faster too. Whereas, if I was to take up, I've done stand-up paddling in the past, but if you go to stand-up, you're learning to paddle slower in a general sense, which could be good too, strength-wise. But I love ski for that ability to just go fast as a six-man. So I do recommend it, but I do recommend it doing it in a safe manner. Start like I did, start in a lake. Always wear your life jacket, leg leash, because it's so much more daunting trying to get back into your craft when you do flip. I had a new sense of, I felt like a newbie when I first went on the ocean on the ski. I was like scared of shadows in the water and flipping. And so be safe out there, guys. And remember, if you're after, no matter if you paddle surfski, stand up, outrigger, any paddle sport, we have training plans for you. But paddling is the same. Like, you could almost use these training plans as a runner. You just turn the mode into running. You could use these plans for that because it's the same idea, periodization. Some of the way that I structure weeks, months, phases, they're pretty similar ways that you do it for both sports. So check out our training plan, the new training plans online, trainlikeaking.com. Check out the new paddles, the paddle collaboration with Thai. Check out all the new merchandise and the merchandise that is on its way. Pretty excited for that. And thank you guys for watching another podcast episode. This one, we almost got to 30 minutes, so hope you guys enjoy these ones, and catch you guys on the next. Kia ora.